Hey friends, before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Nacelle. Now, you know what drives me crazy is when I'm shopping online and I see the recommended products widget that have products in it that have absolutely nothing to do with what I'm looking at. Now, I can guarantee you that you've experienced this too. And that's why I'm excited about my sponsor today, Nacelle. They have an incredible tool that's called Page, and it actually learns your brand voice and understands how your customers shop. And then it creates recommendations that feel personalized, almost handpicked for each visitor. Now, what I love too is how simple it is to use. Their team handles everything with a white glove service. We're talking one-click installation and you're ready to go. Zero tech headaches whatsoever. So that's awesome. One other thing about Nacelle that I think is incredibly special is that it works for everyone that's visiting your store, even first-time browsers who haven't even created accounts yet. With 90% or more, as we know, these are anonymous website visitors that come to your site. And this is now a game changer for conversions because now we have this personalized experience. I've even talked to some merchants that are using Nacelle and their conversion rates have significantly improved. And more importantly, they even have an average order value on one client's actually up over 18%. So this is really money in your pocket. So you want to turn more browsers into buyers with AI recommendations that actually work. Head on over to nacelle.com. That's NACELLE.com. You can start a free trial with them, kick the tires a bit, actually see what their platform can actually do for your store. You can also check it out, that great blog. You can see why a lot of leading brands are trusting Nacelle to power their growth. And it can power your growth too.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, hey there, welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I am your host, Steve Hutt, and today this is going to be a very, very timely episode. As everybody knows, with the Trump administration in the US and all the craziness that's going on right now with tariffs, it's had a massive chain reaction to a lot of direct-to-consumer brands, a lot of these Shopify businesses that traditionally were and are currently importing from China and other parts of the world. And, you know, with all these tariffs now that are happening, it really does, unfortunately, cause, number one, a forecasting problem because we just don't know if people are willing to buy the product now that's at a higher price, or if the market demand is going down and then you've over forecasted. It goes down a really ugly path right now. Today's guest has a solution to that. He's been on our show, gosh, about a year and a half ago. The company's called Portless. It's a founder. His name is Izzy. He has an incredible company that does some really great work when it talks about the tariff kind of mitigation and delaying that, and then how they're able to fulfill orders would appear to be domestically from China, but they have some very interesting solutions and stuff like that, being really close to the factory and being close to where your products are being manufactured and actually can get them to your customers in a very quick and efficient way. So hi, Izzy, welcome to your encore recording. A year and a half ago, episode 300, and I think you're episode 400 now, so welcome back.
I love it. Every 100 episodes, Steve.
Yeah, if you want to come or not, you're coming.
I'll see you at 500, I guess.
All right, we'll see you then. So tariffs are crazy right now, and you know this. I think it's the number one trending topic. If you go to Google right now, it's trending. The word tariff, you didn't even know what they were. It's a number one trending word now. And D2C brands, marketers, all the finance people are just like flipping out because it's really hard right now to understand what to do and what's the right tactic and then what's the market sentiment now. Are people like hiding, because look at the stock market. People's like lost 20-30% of like their 401ks or the RSSPs if they're in Canada. People are really worried about a lot of stuff, and you were wondering the market demand. We're wondering how it all fits. Now, there was a recent deal this week with the UK. So I just want to hear from your perspective. What are you seeing today on the ground? Because you were dealing with a lot of D2C brands, and just want to hear your market feel right now.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing to kind of take a step back, and for anyone that might be asking themselves, is trade wars going to last forever? Definitely not. We're hearing that from people that even coming out of the administration, Trump himself. And even if you look at the way that the administration approached tariffs, if they really wanted to decouple themselves, let's say from China, they would have said, you know what, every quarter we're going to increase it 25% over the next 3.5 years. So basically, don't lose American jobs, but get them to go to other countries. They didn't do that. They went extreme and they went right away. When you go extreme and go right away, what you're doing is you're getting max leverage to get the best deal as fast as possible. And that was like almost pretty clear from the beginning. And now we're starting to see conversations, even with China themselves, that I think they announced, 80% is a good spot. Before you know, it might be 60, might be 50, might be 40. We'll see where it lands. But definitely this is not lasting forever. And to survive between now and the end of the trade war is the mission for the brand. It's not going to last forever, but you've got to be smart between now and then in order to survive those couple months. So once the dust does settle, you're going to be back in a position to lean in and start going for growth and revenue and profitability. So that's, I think, the macro. On the other side, if you look what happened to the UK, the 10% tariff stayed, which kind of tells you UK is probably one of the closest countries to the United States, has one of the closest levels of trade with the United States. So you're looking at the floor from what we could see is going to be a 10% tariff. And we know that the administration wanted a revenue stream from tariffs. So it's looking like I would, based on the deal with the UK, that you could look like that your best case scenario, expect a minimum 10% tariff, no matter what country you're coming from, is kind of what, if you read between the words, guidance is happening. Now, most likely other countries like China will not land at 10%. That's the floor. Will it be 20%? Will it be 60%? 80%? We don't know that. But we do know we'll land somewhere, and we do know it will not be zero. So that, I think, is like kind of between the UK, one of the closest countries to the US, still landing at 10, will give you guidance that expect a floor of 10, and we don't know what the ceilings are for the other ones.
So I think there's going to be people listening right now that don't even know what Portless does, like as a business now. So we understand the tariff kind of situation. So yes, it's going to be around for the next 3.5 years for sure. It's not a long-term thing. The trade war is on. It is what it is. And I appreciate what you're saying about it. The administration in the US wants this revenue stream, and they are massively in debt, and they're trying to get out of this multi-trillion-dollar challenge they have. I understand what they're doing. It is a little bit of shock and awe going on right now, and a lot of unknowns. But what is Portless doing right now from a China perspective? What is your core business model? So I want to make sure people understand that. And I also want to talk a little bit about potential, I said maybe pivots a bit to other countries outside of China for fulfillment. Like I know Vietnam is on your radar and others. So I'd like to understand a little bit about what's happening in China for that manufacturing and fulfillment back to North America and how Portless fits into that mix. And then what's happening with other countries. The reason I'm phrasing the question that way is because I keep reading articles about, Apple and other large electronics manufacturers saying, well, no, okay, we're not going to develop this in China anymore. We're going to bring this to India, or we're going to go to Mexico and get something done over here, or somewhere in South America. And so it's interesting when you have these really large billion and trillion dollar companies trying to make these pivots around. They still want to pay their tariffs, but not as much as they want to because they're a for-profit company. So I just want to hear from your perspective, Portless, what you're doing, and then from China and then other countries.
Absolutely. So at a high level, what Portless does is we take a different approach to the way people run supply chain for e-commerce businesses. So let's first align what a traditional supply chain. If you're in e-commerce, you're running traditional supply chain, let's just say you're manufacturing 10,000 t-shirts. You're putting on a boat and you're waiting 2 months before those goods hit the port. Once it hits the port, in today's tariff world, you got to pull out your checkbook. And if that was $1 million worth of product, you're writing a check for north of $1.4 million day one when it hits the port on all your goods. Then you're slowly starting to get money out of your inventory over the next 4 to 6 months. That is traditional supply chain. And at Portless, we believe it makes no sense for e-commerce. What we do is take a different approach. We have facilities, 2 facilities in China, 2 in Vietnam, and we're building 2 in India as well by the end of Q3. And what we say is once you're done production, don't put it on a boat, send it to us. We will get it 1 to 2 days after production. Once it's in our facility, you could start selling those goods to your customer. When we get the order, we'll pick pack into either custom branded packaging that the customer wants or just non-branded. I'll have a USPS label or other local last mile carrier label printed and put on the package, and we will deliver it to the customer's front door on average 6 days after the order. From a consumer side, 100% local experience. They make an order, 24 hours later, they have a USPS tracking number. 5 days later, they have a driver drop at the front door. So consumer, same experience that yesterday. Now let's talk about the brand. The brand just went from having their goods on water from 2 months, can't sell a thing. Now they start selling things 2 days later. That means you're getting cash out of your inventory 2 days post-production versus 2 months. But now it's even further. Because you're so close to your factory, you don't need to buy 4 to 6 months of inventory at a time. You could buy smaller batches of inventory from your factory, and you could just consistently restock because we're a day away or sometimes even a couple hours away from your factory. So you have less money in inventory, you're getting cash back faster. And the last aspect, which is now more important than ever, you don't need to pay taxes on the inventory that you haven't sold. See, in the traditional model, because you're putting 6 months of inventory over the border day one, you got to write $1 to $2 million worth of taxes. In our model, it doesn't cross the border. It's in our facility in China or Vietnam. You're not paying any taxes on that. Only when you sell the good and we take the package and then we ship that package, that individual package, you already collected the money from the customer, you pay import tax when that crosses the border. So you're not paying it all on your product. You're only paying it on the individual order that you already collected money from the customer as it passes the border. That is game-changing in this world of tariffs from a cash flow perspective.
Here's another thing that I know comes up quite a bit is the whole forecasting thing. And you make a really good point about and that's the traditional kind of supply chain. And that's what's been happening quite consistently now. What's interesting, though, is a lot of people that when these tariffs turned on, the boats were actually en route already. I think that's what killed people a little bit. And I've heard some horror stories about these containers landing in either in LA or Vancouver, if they're in Canada, and then all of a sudden they're being taxed instantly for that, and that's very unfortunate, bad timing based on the Trump administration. But now moving forward, people are learning more about what Portless is actually doing. These minimum order quantities, this MOQ they call it, you can actually forecast a little bit to a lower degree now so that you don't have to buy as much because it's kind of closer to the manufacturing. Can you talk a little about the forecasting models, how things are changing now with Portless and then these lower kind of MOQs that are available?
Yeah, and this trend actually started happening because of the success of Shein. So if you look at Shein, they've shown factories, if you're willing to be more agile on smaller batches of inventory, on producing smaller batches, we could find winners quickly. And if we find winners quickly, then we could scale those winners and everyone is more profitable. So in general, the whole factory ecosystem got more open to making small batch manufacturing. So now in the Portless world, where you're so close to your factory, the factories are now willing to make smaller batches of inventory. You can now buy them, instead of buying, let's say, 10,000 of this t-shirt in every color, you can buy 2,000. And then you'll learn within the summer, one second, let's say it's early June or late May, the orange one is crushing it. You go back to your factory, now you're producing 12,000 of the orange one because you're seeing the data in the season. And then, 2 weeks later, you have that delivery. You didn't produce 12,000 of the yellow one that is doing terrible. So you reduced your risk of excess inventory and you're leaning into the best-selling SKUs, not only leaning in, but you're also capturing demand and not running out of stock in the most important seasons. That's game-changing for a brand from a cash flow, from not running out of stock and not having excess inventory.
Now, I'm going to ask more kind of product-specific questions because we do have a lot of people listening, say thousands of listening right now. It seems that Shopify is more fashion and accessory focused. I think more than half, even 60% of the brands are going to be going down that sort of journey. Unfortunately, what happens in the fashion and accessory market is the return rate is quite high. So I want to talk about two questions here. One is around what are the ideal types of products that tend to do really well through the Portless organization? And then the follow-up question is around, well, what do we do from a returns perspective and how do we handle that? I guess it really depends on the cost of goods because sometimes we just say destroy it and move on and give them a refund and that's all part of doing business. But on the flip side, more expensive items, how do we deal with these returns and refurbishing and or selling it in the aftermarket?
First, on the type of products, our model works really well with lighter products. So fashion is a big part of our business, any type of apparel. Any accessories, shoes, we do a lot of shoes, cosmetics, anything I would say under 5 to 3 pounds, those are kind of the area that we thrive in. Okay. We don't do well for the furniture business or larger products.
Yeah, no couches for you.
Yeah, no couches, no refrigerators, unfortunately, either. So lighter goods, apparel being usually the largest part of this business. And then when it comes to returns, I think you nailed it. But I do think most American brands we service, they care about their COG and if it's being returned. So what we do is we introduce them to different partners that specialize in different verticals. And what they do is they'll take the return, they'll QC it, and then they'll put it on a shelf for forward shipping. So what happens is the returns end up coming to one location, let's say in the States, and that location builds up inventory. And then when an order comes in and it includes a SKU there, or let's say the order just has the SKU sitting there, so you don't do split ship, you could forward ship from these return locations.
I love that. I've seen too also where there's local kind of return bars and stuff like that. So where people, I don't know if it's through Happy Returns, if it's part of the PayPal organization, I'm not even sure. I know there's lots of tools, the Narvars and the Loop and the Returnlys, things like that. So there's lots of technology that I think a lot of direct-to-consumer brands are using currently. I'm finding it interesting that return bars are becoming more and more popular. I think that's all part of the potential flow that could still work for a business.
Yeah, software is very important. And that's why you have like the Loops and the other softwares out there.
Yeah.
But to me, actually, the real magic happens in who's using the software. So if you have a 3PL that doesn't really specialize in returns, they're not going to do QC properly. They're not going to like doing business with you. So I think actually really importantly is getting the right partners that their entire business is returns. Then, from my perspective, that is the best return partner to have in your Rolodex and your toolbox as a business.
Yeah. Like I know we've kind of talked a little bit about this whole return thing. I guess I want to make sure that I'm clear. So I think once again, the whole customer experience is like really important. So someone buys a product and it's being fulfilled by Portless on behalf of the business, and off it goes. You said, within 6 business days or less, typically it's going to arrive with a nice local kind of United States Postal Service tracking number, and the whole thing flows. Are you finding that overall, like that's a great customer experience net, like all the way through? Some people are a little bit more antsy, where they may want it quicker, and that's not necessarily the way the business model currently works based on the origin of the goods and kind of how you fulfill it. I just want to hear what your feelings are about the overall customer experience of under 6 days or 6 days or less.
Great question. So I think in general, the next day / Amazon experience is usually tied to Amazon. Amazon, you're buying a lot of commodities, you're buying your diapers, you're buying your plates, your forks, that stuff, you need it tomorrow. When we look at the data when it comes to consumer brands like on Shopify, when you're a brand, you're selling your story and you're obviously not a commodity because otherwise someone on Amazon would be beating you to it. So when it comes to non-commodities, we're seeing most brands offering the standard shipping of 4 to 7 days or a premium for express shipping. So when we look at the data, usually 90 to 95% of the data shows that customers choose the standard shipping at checkout, which is a 4 to 7 day experience, which we have, as fast as 3 days, the average being 6 days. So right within that number. So for the last 5 to 10%, we'll work with the brand and say, you could have some inventory locally if you want to service that express shipping, but you have much less inventory headache. So you have a fraction of your inventory locally that could service your premium express buyers. But in general, we're seeing 90 to 95% are just choosing standard at checkout.
Okay. And it kind of makes sense though too. I just want to make sure that, and that's the same sentiment that I feel too, is that when there's a lot of Prime members, and I understand that, you're right, you're buying a lot of commodity stuff, or you're being very specific, but I think that's the benefit of Shopify is this kind of uniqueness of a lot of the products, non-commodity products, branded product that may not have a full selection on Amazon anyways. I mean, it's a channel experience by having a few SKUs out there or a few sizes, and you're kind of dabbling in those markets more for brand awareness and some revenue, obviously, but I think, bringing it back to the mothership and having it under your own domain, and then knowing that, hey, it's available and there is a return policy and it's, it's got social proof. I think that's a winning algorithm here. The thing I want to talk about is the connection now to Shopify, because I think that's the other part is people say, okay, I didn't realize that I can, number one, defer tariffs on not having containers coming in because they can stay in your warehouse and only pay upon fulfillment. How do you connect the Shopify store to the Portless network?
It's seamless. Most of our businesses run on Shopify. We have a native integration. Our account management team has a call with you, and within 15 minutes, you're connected and settings are done. If you're on Shopify, that is the best platform, and we have a native integration with that.
Okay. So that's easy. So one and done, and then success team member engineering can kind of do it, boom, and then it's all ready to roll. Okay, that's good. And then is there any other work involved with the brand now? I'm just thinking out loud here as far as now their forecasting models are a little bit different than the way things used to be. Do you offer any insights as to kind of sell-through rate or any kind of seasonality? I'm just curious and kind of like how Portless can, because I think you obviously can see the movement of products and services, or products anyways, through all the businesses that are connected to your network. Like, are you seeing any trends or any kind of like process to how to forecast and maybe the relationships? Because you have boots on the ground in a lot of the key markets in China. So just curious on your feedback on that.
We're actually working, that's on our product roadmap, to build inventory projection model for our model, which is different than traditional model.
Okay.
So that's actually on our product roadmap that should be coming in the next 1 or 2 quarters. But what we're seeing practically brands do, at least from a trade war perspective, is we are seeing them slow down on marketing. So they are pulling back on marketing. We're actually seeing a lot of people put marketing in other countries. So they're working with their marketing partners and they're pushing spend into the UK, into Australia, into Canada. And these, from Portless, we ship to 55 countries, all with local experiences to the consumer, Royal Mail, Canada Post, Australia Post. And it's more profitable because no tariffs. So we're definitely seeing a big shift, and we're helping our brands do that, sell into other countries. But yeah, we are seeing them pull back a little bit in the marketing dollars for the US.
So easy to connect, easy to roll. So I guess, for me, I don't know if you have any kind of parting words, but it's just like, it seems like an absolute no-brainer. I think that's why I have you on today, because I think a lot of people don't realize that there is this opportunity available. If you are a direct-to-consumer brand and you are currently importing from China, and this is kind of like your world right now, bringing containers in, and you understand the financial impact that's happening, there is a solution, and the solution is Portless. You really have the opportunity, and you mentioned that you're actually going to be in India also. So can you talk a bit about kind of what you believe next steps are and kind of who the sweet spot is of people that are listening today?
Absolutely. So if you're a brand that is in e-commerce is your core business, and your product is on, let's call it under £5, we encourage every entrepreneur right now, you got to look at your supply chain or really every part of your business and just survive until the trade war is done. Portless happens to have a lot of good tools for you to survive. If you're not a good fit, your product is bulky, there's other tools out there, but to do everything you can to get through the next 2 to 4 months, wait for the tariff war to settle. It's not going to be 144% forever. If it lands at 50%, then wherever it may land, you'll make that very important decision. Do you want to stay, or do you want to go to Vietnam or India? But you've got to be smart in every single part of your business. And I do say the upside here is the silver lining for the entrepreneurs that lean in and find optimization and how to run their businesses leaner and healthier. Over time, you'll gain market share, because if your competitors are not rolling up their sleeves, they will lose their customers to you. Unfortunately, a lot of them may not make it, but only the best entrepreneurs will not only survive here, but I think thrive in the coming months.
Just one last kind of parting question I'm thinking about too, and this came up actually in social recently. Should I go out and locate fulfillment in other countries that maybe seem to be not on the Trump administration's radar? I know it's pretty much every country in the world, but they seem to be kind of really pointing the finger at a lot of the key markets and key countries that they, apparently have this trade deficit with. And so, because the reason I say that, because I've heard that there's some brands now that are setting up shop in Mexico now because they feel that, and a few other countries, even in South America. So I just want your feedback about, because you mentioned right now Vietnam and China and soon to India. Just what's the overall mindset for a business now that's thinking about maybe China's not for me, or maybe there's a cheaper alternative in another country that's still fully developed?
So when it comes to supply chain, you got to do your extra homework here. You have to keep in mind that China has been building their ecosystem for north of 50 years. Vietnam, which is good, is still behind China. For example, if you went to Vietnam and you wanted to create, let's say, 1,000 dresses or let's say 500 dresses, which in China you could do no problem. You could just lose 50. In Vietnam, factories usually won't allow you because they need to buy 400 rolls of fabric from the fabric mill, because the fabric mill is not willing to sell anything below that. Versus in China, you could buy 1 roll of fabric. Then there's the expertise or the machinery for embroidery or the quality of the cotton. So we do see consistently China being the leader in quality and ecosystem. India and Vietnam are definitely a fast follow. As you go further away, then it starts breaking it down to like, okay, what niche are you in? Cambodia might be great for leather. Bangladesh might be great for jeans. But if you go outside of jeans, Bangladesh might not be the right answer for you. And same thing with Mexico. Mexico has a great auto manufacturing hub. They don't have the biggest experience in apparel, right? They don't have that much. It was historically, most brands use Mexico as warehousing to move goods from all across the world into the States. You can't just overnight become a factory and become an expert at it. The only exception to that rule is if your Chinese factory invests and starts building operations in these countries. That changes the game. That just brings the expert operator. You need to find the local talent and the local raw materials. So shifting supply chain is a very big move. It is very risky if done not well, and highly encouraged to go beyond the service of like a factory in another country. Well, what's the raw materials like? What's the capacity like? What's the MOQs? What's the quality like? And you've got to answer these questions before you make any big decisions.
Okay, this is amazing. All right, so it's portless.com. So next steps, I guess, for those that are listening, if you kind of fit into that sweet spot and you have, hopefully fashion and apparel, but it's kind of ideal, but I'm sure other types of products in the 3 to 5 pound range-ish can work quite well. We can get a hold of you directly. Just kind of, what do you believe some of the next steps should be here?
If you want to learn more, just go to portless.com. We have a contact us page. We got blogs. We got podcasts. We have webinars. Feel free to educate yourself. But if you want to reach out, either you could go to LinkedIn and find me, Izzy Rosenzweig. I post a lot of content, or go to portless.com, learn about it, reach out to us. We will connect with you and see if you guys can be a good fit for this model.
Wow, this is lovely. Well, Izzy, once again, thank you so much for hustling and making sure I get you on today's episode 400. So this is like fantastic. I will see you at episode 500 for sure. Sure. But this is great. I know that you have a great mission and you're very passionate about wanting to help these businesses, because here you are 18 months later and this business has been running for a while now. You really are a very impactful entrepreneur that are really helping these businesses like be more profitable. And I love the fact that this whole delayed tariff situation, I think it's really interesting. I love the agile and kind of lean concept here about, I have like 2 pages of notes here because that's just life of learning for me. And I massively appreciate this. We're going to pay this forward to those that are listening today. So definitely go check out portless.com. And once again, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
All right, take care. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.